Treading water requires three things. Number one, buoyancy. In this video, we'll cover two powerful buoyancy options. Number two is relaxation. If you find it hard to stay relaxed in deep water, in this video, we'll share exactly how to find and sustain relaxation with ease. And number three is technique. We will cover the top 5 treading water technique tips, so make sure you stick around to the end of the video. But before we get into the technique, we need to lay our treading water foundation, because the primary goal of treading water is to make sure you don't sink. And we have two options to help us not sink. Option number one is that we create our own natural buoyancy. We do this by taking a deep breath. More air in our lungs makes us more buoyant in the water and acts like our body's own natural life vest. Let me show you 3 examples of how air impacts our buoyancy, starting with example number 1, where I'm not taking a breath. Example number 2, where I take a standard chest breath. And then example number 3, where I take a really deep diaphragmatic breath. Let's start with example number 1 with no breath. Here's example 1 without me taking a breath at all. It doesn't matter what I do, without any breath, I sink straight to the bottom of the pool. Now on to example 2, where I try just taking a chest breath. I gotta tell you, that was super cool because I kind of sunk slowly, but then the buoyancy from the air brought me back up and made it so I could take an additional breath. But as you notice from there, I went straight to the bottom. So no to a chest breath. How about number 3? If I take a full diaphragmatic breath, let's try that. But that example of no air, a chest breath, and a diaphragmatic breath is just an example of the amount of air that we put into our chest as we're getting started with our treading water. But what do we do when we're trying to sustain treading water? That is a little bit different. And for new beginners, I have a very simple process called the 150 principle. Let me show you that now. As you are treading water, I want you to take a 100% inhale, a very deep breath. Then I want you to hold on to that breath for about 10 to 15 seconds. From there, I want you to release around 50% of the air or carbon dioxide from your lungs before taking a 100% inhale. When we do that whole process, it looks like this. Notice how quickly my inhale comes after my exhale. That is because when we exhale, we start sinking in the water, and it happens really quickly. And so we want to get that inhale right as we finish that 50% exhale. Let me show you one more time. But the truth is that this style of breathing is not without its shortcomings. For many of my beginning students, they express a bit of pressure when trying to hold that amount of air in their lungs. And not to mention, most of us who are first learning how to tread water can sometimes feel in a bit of a panic state or not 100% purely relaxed when treading water. Or we might just be getting tired. All three of those examples make it hard for us to hold and sustain a deep breath. So when that's the case, what do we do? Well, this leads us to option number 2. If we can't hold our own deep breath to sustain our buoyancy, then we're going to need outside buoyancy support from a flotation aid. And I'm going to give you a couple of examples here of common flotation aids I've seen used when treading water. Number 1, a noodle. When we use a noodle and we're treading water, we want to hold it under our armpits like this. This noodle does give us great buoyancy support so that we can learn how to naturally breathe when we're treading water. The problem with this, however, is that it's just one piece of foam. What happens when we remove it? Well, now we're back to the exact same problem we started with, which is either we can get and hold a deep breath or we can't. Option number 2, again, poses very similar issues, and that is a full life vest. I have seen many brand new swimmers try to learn how to tread water in a full life vest like this. From a safety perspective, this is incredible because it's going to make sure that we don't sink, which should make the process of breathing a little bit simpler. But again, this has its shortcomings. Number 1, it doesn't really help our new swimmer confidence, right? When we're going to a pool for the first time, do we really want to have to wear a full life vest like this? Probably not. Number 2, it tends to ride up on our neck like this, which can make the process a little uncomfortable. So it's really not my favorite tool. I think it's something that might work up front, but not something that I have my students wear. But what about a third option? I'll show you that now. Option number 3, and by far our favorite treading water tool, is this treading water progressive flotation belt. Notice how this belt has 6 removable flotation pods on it. That means that as you progress in your ability with treading water, you can start to remove these flotation pods altogether. And the belt will only meet you at the exact amount of flotation support that you need in order to sustain your treading water. And in this example, ensure that you can maintain comfortable breathing. But once you improve your skill, all that you have to do is take the belt off, and then you can very simply remove one of these pods like this, and then the belt becomes less buoyant and you rely more and more on your own individual skills when you're treading water. And as I mentioned earlier, this example doesn't do a lot for our brand new swimmer confidence, but this belt is different because if we're wearing a rash guard, we can choose to put the belt under the rash guard completely, and that makes it so it doesn't feel like we're using a ton of flotation support to the outside world. And this does a lot to help us initially get started using flotation. So as you are first using this treading water belt, I want you to do 2 steps with our breathing. Number 1, I want you to start by using your own buoyancy built-in life vest, which is our air. Again, we do that by taking a deep diaphragmatic breath like this. Then we get started with the treading water process. And I want you to try to get as close to normal breathing, if you choose to use this belt, as possible. That will help us not only sustain our treading water for longer periods of time, which helps us increase our skill level, but it also helps us with step number 2, which is relaxation. Relaxation, or relaxed movements in the water, are absolutely essential to you sustaining treading water for longer than 5 to 10 seconds at a time. And over the thousands of students that we have taught how to swim and how to tread water, this by far is the most common mistake. It's jerky, rigid movements in the water. It's natural to want to do that because as a new swimmer, it's difficult treading water. Think about it. We're in a vertical position, no longer horizontal, where we can be completely relaxed. This makes us feel like we're going to immediately sink in the water. So as a response, we tend to try to outwork the water so that we can be higher, or to make sure that our head is above the water so that we can breathe. But the actual process of making sure that you can stay above the water is reverse from that. Less is more. And we need to make sure that we're able to sustain our relaxed movements the entire time. And I don't mean just a little bit relaxed. I mean, we want to really fully relax when we are treading water. And again, this is where the belt is absolutely a critical tool in your learn to tread water progression, because it allows you that ability to fully relax in any depth of water. Did you know that the single most common area of anxiety for brand new swimmers that impacts 65% of the population is deep water? So we have to learn how to counteract that anxiety to stay relaxed. And I believe single-handedly, unequivocally, the best tool to do that is this treading water belt. I mean, it doesn't get much more relaxing than this. I am literally not moving. I got a giant smile on my face, ear to ear. I'm able to shoot this video for you at home and not worry at all about sinking in 15 feet of water. To me, that is the definition of relaxation, and it's an experience that I would love to offer you at home. And with that, we have now built our treading water foundation. It's a foundation that's built on 2 parts: relaxation and breath control. Both of those 2 allow us to properly work on step 3, which is our technique. And as promised in the beginning of the video, here are the top 5 pieces of treading water technique that will help you master treading water in no time. Number 5, I want you to lean slightly back. Most of my brand new students get caught in the definition of treading water and think that it's not treading water if we are not in a completely vertical position. Nothing could be further from the truth. The definition of treading water in my book is that you can sustain keeping your head out of the water so that you can breathe and sustain a safe position in the water over an extended period of time. We want to bring our legs up a little bit, and this position is called the chair drill. And this will help you sustain relaxed treading water for a long period of time. Number 4, we want to balance the back of our head on the surface of the water. Water has a significant amount of surface tension, and our head weighs a lot. So when we balance it on the surface of the water, that will offset some of that weight and make it much easier for us to stay buoyant. That example looks like this. Number 3 are very smooth movements with our arms and our hands, where we want to have our palms facing in on the way in and out on the way out. And there are really 2 primary techniques that we use when we're moving like this. One is straight out and back in a really slow, methodical, relaxed fashion. Just out on the way out, in on the way in, out on the way out, in on the way in. In on the way in, out on the way out, in on the way in, out on the way out. Example number 2 is more of a figure 8 pattern where we come up and then back out. But notice my palms are still facing in on the way in and out on the way out. We just add a little depth to our movement, which is also very relaxing at the same time. I would like you to try both of those and see which one you prefer. For our students, half around prefer just straight out and straight in, and the other half prefer a little bit more of the figure 8 movement. I want you to find out which one works best for you. Number 2, I only want you to kick if it is actually helping your buoyancy and your ease of treading water. Now, the truth of this matter is that most brand new swimmers will actually do better by not kicking at all. And that generally is because our kicking technique is a little bit too forced and rigid. And when that happens, it tends to actually make us sink more than it actually helps support us staying on top of the water. But if your kicking does help, I want you to only kick flutter kick, small up and down movements with our legs. In the beginning, we are not going to get into complex treading water kicking like breaststroke kick or egg beater kick. Those are movements that we'll save for much later in our learning process because they're very advanced, complicated, and they don't make the process easy for us to learn. Instead, just start with relaxed flutter kicking if it helps. If not, let's keep the legs still and remain moving our arms in a very relaxed, gentle fashion. And technique advice number 1, and far and away the most important element of technique advice that I can offer you, is less is more. No jerky, fast movements, regardless of the experience level that you have or the situation that we find ourselves in. We need to be able to try and get around 20 hours of total treading water time to really increase our proficiency. In order to do that, we need to be able to sustain periods of treading water for 2, 3, or 4 minutes at a time. The only way to do that, as I've mentioned throughout this entire video, is very relaxed movements. The jerkier we are, the more we're working our muscles, the more tired we get, the harder it is for us to relax, the less likely it is that we can get a sustained deep breath and our entire foundation begins to fall apart. Don't let that be you. Now, congratulations if you have made it to this point in the video and you want more of our individualized support learning how to tread water. I highly recommend you take 2 actions. Number 1, click on the link in our bio and invest in this treading water belt. Included in your purchase of this belt are 2 things. Number 1, a full step-by-step learn how to tread water course using this belt, where we will guide you every step of the way, starting in full flotation support and then moving through removing each and every one of the 6 removable pods until you are treading water completely without the support of any flotation device at all. And number 2, it gives you 1 month of access into our treading water community so that you can receive tips, tricks, accountability, advice from other swimmers just like you learning how to tread water. This is incredibly valuable to your treading water process, and all of that is yours by investing in the treading water belt found in the link in our bio. And I will leave you with this. Remember, every single one of you can learn how to tread water sustainably by maximizing the 3 levers: relaxation, buoyancy, and technique that we covered inside of this video. Remember, the only way that you can fail is if that you choose to give up the process of learning. I hope you never decide to do that. Thank you so much for joining me inside of this video, and I can't wait to see you in the next one.